Hello everyone, this is Naresh IAS Academy digital platform for the IAS mains examination. I am working on General Studies question paper 1 for IAS mains exam. I have already completely discussed question paper 2 for IAS mains exam and it have uploaded through the 20 videos on the YouTube channel. So you may take help from these videos, and this is my next effort to cover the entire GS question paper 1 through the 20 videos again. And you may contact for offline classes. We cover each question paper in the 20 days, and you may also contact for the optional subject history. Today's our topic is Indian National Congress, शॉर्ट में the INC Congress. It's a broad topic, and I will try to explain conceptual part of this. First of all, the one question is generally raised with the establishment of Congress is the rise of nationalism. Second aspect is the moderate politics. And third is extremist politics. This is the topic, and you can analyze the topic in this way. The Indian National Congress established in 1885. There are multiple issues regarding the Congress. Simply I will discuss 3 or the 4 aspects. One of the important is, what do you mean by the nationalism and why it is said the nationalism was grown in India with the establishment of Congress. Generally, this is a disputed matter between the British and the Indian historians, but we have to side the disputes, and simply I will try to explain the major concept behind this. When the Congress was founded in 1885, then Congress mainly led the issues of British India. British did not rule entire the Indian territory. British government means this is about the 63% territory of India, and the remaining 37% territory was under the princely states. So it must be clear. The Congress first raised the issues of British Indian people in the organized form. So definitely this was the organizational stance of the Congress, and British government had some agreement or disagreement with the opinion of the Congress in the earlier phase. The nationalism means what? When there was a one government over the British India, and the issues were related to the all peoples of the British Indian territories. For example, one economic policy, one revenue policy, one admin policy, one legal policy, one education policy. That simply it explains the concept of nationalism. Before the Congress, this was not seen in this way. There were some regional power and they were working according to their opinion. No single regional power tried to raise the questions for or joining the other regional powers. They were maintaining the rival relation to each other. So, being a disputed matter among the historians or scholar, definitely we can say with the Congress, the first time this was the organizational stand of the Congress to raise or discuss the issues with the government. So simply we can say this was the earliest form of the nationalism, and this was not in the mature fade or in the refined form, because just I have said only the 63% geographical territory of India was governed by the British system, not the entire 100% geographical territory. So it was in earliest phase. And what were the reasons, the multiple causes behind this, what were the nature of this nationalism, and what were the consequences? Simply the nationalism first started with the economic issues, and initially it was grown in the form of the economic nationalism. When the Congress leader first made the Indians aware about their economic policies or the drain of wealth, then it was converted into the cultural nationalism and then the political nationalism. So what kind of political nationalism which was spread among the Indian, this was the actually the nationalism, but it occurred too much in the late phase of the Indian National Congress. And next is the Congress was led by moderates or then the extremists. The moderate politics is considered during 1885 to 1905, or the extremist politics 1905 to 1919. Moderates are also called early nationalists, and there are so many aspects regarding the moderates. Who were the moderates and why they are called the moderates, and what were their achievements in the Indian National Congress, and how much extent they could succeed to fulfill the expectations of Indian peoples, and in what way they tried to pressurize the British system or convince the British system to expect the Indians' demand, and what were their philosophy, what were their ideologies. So simply, moderates were the leaders of Indian National Congress, belongs to either the higher middle class or the upper classes, including engineers, doctors, lawyers, chartered accountants and the big landlords, and they raise most of issues regarding their individual or the vested interest. However, some issues were related to the Indian peoples. Moderate politics had their philosophical basis that they considered the British government as boon for the India, and they had faith in the British honesty, governing system, fair play, transparency, rule of law, and they assumed that this kind of governing political system, if they were starting in India, then definitely one day gradually or constitutionally India will enter into the modern phase. So this was their philosophy. That's why there is least scope for the political pressure, any kinds of political agitation against the British system. So what were their objects or aims in this phase? Simply they demanded the political and economic reforms. In the political sector, they emphasize for enlargement or more participation of Indians into the councils or the administration. Different kinds of discrimination must be stopped. And the economic sector, they raise the reduction in the revenue or taxes over the Indian peasants or the different classes, and they also requested to British government to ensure the right to speech and expression and right to assembly and right to make organization, different kinds of civil rights and the protection of women's and the backward classes. And these demands or these objectives, how they try to fulfill, definitely they adopted the method which was called the constitutional way or the constitutional manner, in which they raised these questions through the petition, prayer and simply the constitutional protest, not the political protest. And through the Congress delegation, they met with the British Governor General or the other British officials and discussed the different issues. And in this phase, Dadabhai Nauroji, Firozshah Mehta, Gopal Krishna Gokhale, Gobind Mahadev Ranade, like the leaders who were the leaders of the mainstream in the early nationalists. Now we have to analyze their role. One thing, the methodology or ideology of moderates, simply it is called, they were working under the politics of mendicancy. How much extent the element of mendicant is found in their ideology? Definitely when we deeply analyze, due to the efforts of moderates, British government passed India Council Act 1892, through which at centre and the provincial level the councils were enlarged, the participation of Indians was increased and first time indirect electoral system was adopted, and a Welby Commission was formed in 1901 to 1902 to discuss the matters of expenditure over the Indian exchequer. And also the moderate were the first or the early nationalists who deeply analyze the economic character of British government, and they conclude as the drain of wealth theory, and definitely on that issue they try to aware the Indian peoples, and definitely they must be praised for this, because this was resulted into the economic nationalism. This was the first form of the nationalism, and this definitely a success of the early nationalists or the moderate leaders. However, they could not succeed in their philosophy as they were living in the arena of this philosophy, just like the British government did not honestly try to make India under the rule of law or to ensure the different kinds of political or civil rights and reduction in the revenue or taxes over the Indian peasants. This was the another issue, but on the other hand, definitely that circumstances they tried to what they could do that time. And the moderate politics then replaced by the extremist politics. Who were the extremists? The extremists were the second line of leaders of Congress. They have more aggressive ideologies and objectives and the methodology. That's why they were called the extremists. And this phase led by Lala Lajpat Rai, Bipin Chandra Pal and Bal Gangadhar Tilak, Subramanyam Iyer, Chidambaram Pillai. The extremists, how much extent they were differ? First, extremists determine their objective as self-governance or the Swaraj. Then the political or economic reform. So definitely it was a more aggressive objective, and moderates completely have faith in the British system, and through the British system they expected the modernization or development of India, but the extremists completely rejected this. Simply they demanded the Swaraj. It means there was no intervention at the provincial politics through the British government. We will drag India or push India into the modern phase according to socio-economic circumstances of country, not by the Western values or not by the intervention of the Britishers. Second difference was the methodology of the moderates was constitutional manner. Simply they adopted the prayer, petition and constitutional protest, but now they adopted the political agitation, political protest, and which includes the policy of Swadeshi and boycott. Swadeshi and boycott. Or third is, there was too much gap between the moderates and the masses, the Indian people. Moderate leaders simply maintained the distance. They never tried to link or communicate with the Indian peoples because they assumed the Indian peoples were divided into the different castes, religions, genders, and so many differential factors that time exist. But now the extremists tried to fill the gap, and this became a revolutionary step, and soon they became popular among the masses, and with the support of masses definitely they could succeed to run the movement of Swadeshi and boycott. And next, the cultural issues never touched by the moderates, but in the extremist phase the extremist leader touched the cultural issues, because that time the British government was trying to impose the Western values in the different sectors, but now they started the literature in vernacular language of India. Rabindranath Tagore started to writing in Bangalore, and so many newspapers were started in the vernacular language, like Bal Gangadhar Tilak published the Kesari and Maratha newspapers, and this was the establishment of vernacular schools, college or the educational institutions, and the paintings rejected the Western influence. Nandlal Bose, Rabindranath Tagore now lead the Indian Oriental art, and they removed the Western impacts. And in architecture, definitely they adopted the Indian indigenous styles of architecture than the Gothic styles of Britishers, and they started to celebrate the Indian festival like the Ganpati Utsav and the Shivaji Utsav. So definitely we can say how the extremist politics connected itself with the masses. Through this, the cultural issues or Swadeshi movement were the heart-touching issues. They attracted the masses towards them. Definitely they tried to expand their ideology throughout the British India. However, for some extent they could succeed. There were the other issues they tried to hamper their politics. So this is the extremist phase, and this was their ideology. Now there are the some other issues. The establishment of Muslim League in 1906, how much it affected the politics of moderate and extremists. Second, the Surat split in 1907. This was only a ideological differences between moderate and extremists, or the differences exist beyond this. We have to analyze, and how much extent the circumstances of First World War 1914 to 1918 affected the policy of Indian National Congress, and the Lucknow Pact and the role of Muslim League and the other elements and the international issues they were happening at the international circumstances, they were also pushing the extremists to raise or to adopt the new hopes and aspirations. Okay, these issues I will discuss in detail through my website videos. Okay, thank you.